Bless you.
Y'all get holiday pay?
There's lots of holidays you don't get off, though.
Get holiday pay?
No, it would be nice, wouldn't it?
That's a good question. Are we open tomorrow or closed?
Credit cards.
Oh,
We want credit card.
Everybody wants a credit card with big balance and points and all that fun stuff.
No interest.
All right. So credit card starts off with a small discussion, and then I show you how to use it if you carry over balances. Credit cards are different than a loan from a bank. A loan from a bank is called fixed. Why is it called fixed? Because the payments are fixed, the interest is fixed, and the time period is fixed. Nothing changes. So you make the same payment every single month for the specific time and you pay off your loan. Credit cards, on the other hand, are called open. Other ones that might work like this are things like equity loans, but very few of them are taken out that way. Usually you take an equity loan, you take a big chunk and it becomes a fixed loan. There are open equity loans where if you write a check, it goes into that account like a credit card and then you start paying off what you borrowed. But credit cards are a little weird because when you use a credit card, your balance goes up and down any day of the month. When you make charges, it'll go up. And when you make your payment, whenever it gets there, it'll go down. So your balance is never the same throughout the entire month. So they had to come up with a method that was kind of, well, fair. Probably the best word that I can use. So the method they come up with is average daily balance.
no,
Just one
spell
I know. I love my double
One
L's.
L.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
Kill.
I had
You did
to
that on
say
purpose.
this.
I purposely did this one.
Yeah, did you purposely do that
Let 'em
compound?
have it.
Right,
Compound
compound,
shape,
forgot the P.
you forgot the P.
Oh well, life goes on. Isn't that
Poor
horrible?
fellow, poor fellow.
You people are just so picky, but when I start getting picky on a decimal place, you
Oh,
get
right.
all upset.
Sure. You got
Um,
that, you got
It's called the average daily balance, and this is how it
that, I understand.
basically works. I'm just gonna look at 2 weeks. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So just 2 weeks of a credit card. So hot in here. Let's say we started off with a balance of $200. And the next day we didn't make any charges, and the next day we didn't make any charges, and the next day we didn't make any charges. But on Thursday, I went out grocery shopping, and I charged $150. What happens to my balance? It goes up, right? So this would be $350 because of a charge of $150 on that day. All right, so I went grocery shopping, bought $150 worth of groceries, my balance goes up. And that sits there for a few days. All right, on Sunday, I have to go shopping and buy some clothes. So I spend $200 on Sunday. So if I spent $200 on Sunday, what's that do to my balance?
Wow.
It would be $550. So $550. Oops, dollars.
Wait, what?
If I spent $200 on Sunday, that takes my balance of $350 and brings it up to $550. Charges make the balance go up. It's opposite of a checking account. When you write a check, what do you do to your balance? It goes down because you're subtracting money from your account. With a credit card, you don't have the money to begin with, so it's going to jack the other direction.
charge card is what you have.
Charge card, credit card. Yeah. So let's say we have $550 for a few days. And then on Friday, now here's where credit cards get you. You mailed the check Thursday of last week. They didn't get the check until Tuesday of that week, but they didn't get it processed until Friday of that week. So when it gets onto your credit card, that's when it starts reducing your balance and interest and all other fun things. So let's say I send in a check for $300. How's it going to affect my balance?
Bring it down, right?
It's going to bring it down because I'm paying off what I've borrowed from this bank, so it's going to be a negative 300. So now we're down to
250.
250. And I'll let that stay for the last 2 days. So with a credit card, the balance is all over the place. It's up, it's down, it can increase, it could stay the same. It can do all different types of things. So when they talk about the average daily balance, they literally are taking an average. How much money you have on your account per day. So when we're talking about the average daily balance, it's average money per day. So guess what you're going to have to do to find the average daily balance for these 2 weeks?
I have a formula.
No formula.
Surprise.
Add them all up,
Divide.
divide by
Okay.
14. How many days pass? So you'd sit here and go 200 plus 200 plus 200 plus. Would you do that?
You wanted to use a spreadsheet?
Nope. I want to use my common sense. Would you sit there and go 200 plus 200 plus 200 plus 200?
4 times 200.
You would do 4 times 200. So the 4 represents what?
4 days.
The 4 days that the account was sitting at
$200.
$200, and then you'd multiply it by 200. Plus, then I got 350 how many times? 3. So for 3 days, the account was sitting at $350. Plus, how many days was it at 550?
5 days.
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 days at 550. Plus
250 twice.
2 days at
250.
250.
Okay,
And then
so what's the gimmick? Because you never give us nothing this easy.
There is no gimmick.
She said,
Sure.
exactly.
I'm absolutely sure.
Oh, okay.
So what's the 200 at the top, the 150 on Thursday, the plus 150? Cause you know,
Your account has a $200 balance.
right?
So for those 4 days, your account had a balance of $200.
You didn't do anything.
On Thursday, I charged for groceries. So my balance goes up by 150.
Oh, okay.
You weren't paying attention then, were you?
I was, but I was thinking you were saying you spend $200.
No. Your account balance. You got your credit card statement, you still owe $200 on your account with interest. I'm keeping the numbers simple. But after a few days of just letting it sit at a $200 balance, you went out and charged another 150, so that jacks up your balance. Okay. So then I take this whole thing and divide by 14, because that's how many days there are in these 2 weeks. So what's the average daily balance for this credit card so far? No one did the calculation?
$364.28. Are we rounding it or just leaving it like that?
It's money.
364,
364, anybody?
28.
It's 20 years. She right.
364.28? 364.28. This number is the number that the credit card company uses it for principal. It uses it for the principal in the equation, I equals PRT. Good old simple interest again. Credit cards are compound interest, but because we're catching it in a small time frame, we can treat it as simple interest. So this becomes the principal. Now notice, it has nothing to do with any of the balance during the month. It is not the last balance that we ended up with especially. So whatever I'm going to do with that principal, it's going to be added on as interest to this last number, 250. So you take your principal, and you go, I equals PRT. What's P?
Principal.
What is it?
364.
Yeah, that 364.28. Credit card interest rate. Make up one.
4%.
I doubt a credit card will have 4%.
19%.
19 or 29, one of those two. The law used to be that they couldn't go any higher than 25%. The credit card companies went to the government and lobbied for an increase in the interest rate because they said they were not making enough profit. not enough profit. It wasn't hurting them, but they were not making enough profit. So they allowed it to be jacked up to 30% now. Isn't that crazy? So the banks are like, oh, we're not making enough money. We want to make some more. Can you please raise the interest rate? And they allow it. Isn't that ridiculous? Oh well. So let's make it, what did I say?
19.
19? So 19% interest rate. This is an APR. You know, annual percentage rate. And they can advertise it that way. All right, time.
Ms. Boone.
What's 19?
I made it up. Credit card companies will have interest rates. It'll be some number. The common one, if you get a new one, I think now is like 29%.
14 days?
I should have brought in an application. I finally got one in years. It's been years since I got it. So 14 over 365. All right, so you type that in your calculator, you get a fancy little answer. That's fun. What'd you get?
2.65.
$2.65. I hope you meant. So, what does the bank do with this $2.65?
Adds it on.
Adds it on. So your new balance, after getting the charge of $2.65,
They added to the 250.
so it would be $252.65. And you're all like, oh, that's nothing. It's only $2.65 in interest. $2.65 in interest.
Damn.
But this is only for 2 weeks. Months are usually made up of 4 weeks. So if you double that, that's like $5, right? You times that by 12, and that's $60 a year that came out of your pocket for no other reason than you carry the balance on your credit card of about $364. Kind of sad, huh? There are people out there that carry balances over year, and they could pay them off, but they let them sit and charge interest because they don't even care about that $5. Yeah.
You get 252.
This number? Oh, this number.
Yes.
The last balance was $250. So you take the last balance and you add on your interest. I'm going to do this in table form next. This is just a explanation of the average daily balance. I really didn't create a problem out of it yet. So instead of paying interest to a credit card company that's just going to steal your money anyways because they don't make enough profit, what I have decided to do is charge, and I charge up the yin-yang. I charge like $2,000 a month. All my groceries, all my bills, everything I can think of, I throw it on my credit card. Why?
Because you can pay it off when you want.
I get points.
Oh.
And because I get points, they pay me 1% of what I charge. So if I spend $2,000 a month, they pay me $20. So I'm getting $20 from a company that usually takes money away from people. I will never carry a balance again because I will never want to pay even this much back to a credit card company. They're dangerous because once you start paying interest, it starts snowballing and it's really, really hard to get away from a credit card. So for example, let's use Mary. I got sick of George. Mary's credit card closed on 4/4, April 4th, with a balance of $744. Now this balance is including, if she had a carryover from the previous month, interest that she was charged for the previous month. So it would be whatever her balance was last month plus a little bit of interest. Hopefully not too much. Okay. Then on 4/7, she charged $97. On 4/13, charged, no, paid $291. Now, that date there, 4/13, that's when the credit card finally applied the check she sent in a week before. There's always a lag time from when you mail it to when they post it. And if you're paying it off, like the bill just got to you and you want to pay off your credit card and there's a carried over balance, if you're paying off your credit card without a carried over balance, you don't owe any interest at all because they give you a 28-day free grace period. So if you charge $500 this month, you send them a check when the bill comes to you for $500, you don't pay anything. But if you have a carryover balance from the previous month into the next month, then they start nailing you for interest. So if this is the case, and she had a $744 balance, and I did do these two things down below, if she sent in a check for $744, she would still owe, what's that, 11 days of interest? No, 9 days of interest. So they would still charge her interest, even though she was paying the whole thing off. So you have to be careful of that. They don't charge you interest at the very, very beginning, but they will nail you for that last payment at the very end. All right, so on with my dates. 4/15, she charged, what did I say, $45. On 4/22, charged $82.
You said on the 13th, that's when the 291 was actually paid on that date?
The credit card finally posted it to your account. Doesn't always happen instantaneously. Certain ones do, like if your bank has an electronic connection to the credit card, if you post it on the bank's website, it'll automatically go to the credit card statement, which is kind of nice. Some do that. And on 5/4, nah, I don't want to do that. There, leave it at that. Nice and simple. The APR is 18.5%. Can you get lower interest rates? Yes, why? When can you get a lower interest rate on a credit card?
Paying it off early.
Paying it off early, showing them you're responsible. Number two, they're not just going to give it to you. You actually have to physically call them and ask them to lower your interest rate.
Oh, really?
Yes, they will not do it automatically. So if you call them up and say, listen, I'm thinking of changing credit cards, your rate is too high, this other one's a little lower for me, they'll deal with you. They'll try to keep you as a customer. The other thing is, darn it just went out of my brain. Oh, they will automatically raise how much you can borrow. So you start off with a $5,000 credit card, your limit, and all of a sudden it's $10,000. And then all of a sudden it's $15,000, and all of a sudden it's $30,000, and you're like making $30,000 a year, and they're offering you $30,000 in credit. You can call them and say, "Listen, I don't need that much. I want it at 5," and force it down. That way you're constraining yourself to something you can afford.
Mr. Kumar, that 82, what is that before? Was it charged?
Yeah, it's charged. This means carry down the word charged.
Oh.
I was just getting lazy. It's like an equal sign. So, if the APR is 18.5% interest, how do we find the average daily balance? Well, the best way is a table. Instead of trying to do it the calendar style. The calendar style is not bad. Right up here. Okay. So the table will look like this. You start off with a date. You have your charges. You have your payments. You have your balance. I'm going to run out of room. You have days at. And then you just get this number down here, which we'll talk about later. Hopefully I have enough room to write that number in there. Can you set up a spreadsheet to do this for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take 2 seconds. That might be a cool project.
Hey,
Awesome.
stop it.
I think I might actually add it. Sounds like a good one to me.
Please.
That's the credit.
That's a credit.
Okay. So what is the first date I should put up here?
4.
7.
4-4.
4-4. Why? 4-4 is necessary because that's the closing date
Yeah.
of the previous statement, and you always want to talk about the closing date. So 4-4 goes here. Did I make a charge?
No.
Payment? Did I have a balance?
Yes.
Yeah, $744. All right, we'll come back to the last 2 columns at the very end. We'll fill up. Most of this is like a checking register. When you write a check and you subtract from your balance, all that type of stuff. Next date up is 4-7. I made a charge of $97, no payments. Now, a charge and a payment can happen on the same day. You know, you made a charge and they finally posted your payment. That's possible, but I'll keep it simple. So 744
841.
plus 97 is 841, you said?
Yes.
Okay, back over here, the next date up is 4/13. That was a payment of $291. And the balance would be 5 what?
550.
550, even. That's kind of nice. Alright, next date is 4/15. I made a charge of $45. Charges make my balance go up, so I added it. So that would be $595. On 4/22, I made a charge of $82. The balance goes up even more,
677.
$677. And, I'm done. Or am I?
We gotta put the days.
I'll get to that. Am I done with my dates?
No, you can add something else if you want to.
What else do I want to or have to add?
The close date.
I need the closing date. What's the closing date?
The 20.
5/4.
Oh, 5/4. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, credit card companies will close it on the same day as much as possible unless it lands like on Christmas or something silly like that. They try to close it on the same day. Mine always do, but credit cards can float it a few days. So this would be 5/4. Because that one's 4/4, this one's 5/4. But if 5/4 was like a holiday, you might have 32 days in a billing cycle, 33 days in a billing cycle. But it gets out in the wash because the next month would be shorter and you save on interest and all that fun stuff. All right, is there a charge on 5/4?
Yes.
What will it be?
The interest.
It will be the interest. So in this little box, eventually is going to be interest. Unless, she made a charge also on 5/4. All right, and that interest is going to add on to
The balance.
the 677 over here. Nothing else. Okay, so let's look at the days at. What I mean by the days at is, if you're looking at $744, how many days did it stay on this credit card all by itself?
3 days.
How'd you figure that out? Well,
Times 20.
3 days.
from 4/4 to 4/7, it's 3 days. But don't put the number on the second row. It has to go on
The first
the
row.
first one. So this is 3 days at that balance. All right, how many days was the balance at 841?
4 days.
How many?
6 days.
Worried about you. 6 days. From 4/7 to 4/13 is 6 days. All right. How many days was the balance at 550? 2. From 4/13 to 4/15. So the 2 would go here. The balance at 595.
7.
7. 15 to the 22nd. So 15 to the 22nd is 7 days. How many days was the balance at 677? Now this one's a little trickier.
12,
13. Oh,
Do you know how many days are in April?
30.
How do you know that? Do you memorize it?
Oh, that's 30.
You put up your 4 fingers and you go January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
I don't know.
Anytime you're at the top of your finger, there's 31 days. If you're at the bottom, there's only 30. It works out rather well. So January, February, March, April.
April is fuck,
So it falls between, so April only has
30 days.
30 days.
Well, we,
I don't know who taught me that, but it's kind of a cool technique. So you can do it with knuckles too. 30 days, that means how many days are left in April? 8 plus another 4, which would bring me for 12. So this one is at 12 days at 677. Which one? From the 22nd to the end of the month, which is 30 days, that's 8 days, and then there's 4 more to get to the 4th. All right, double check yourself. Take these numbers and add them together.
it's 30.
It should be 30. If it's not 30, you did something wrong. All right, now what?
You need to multiply them numbers.
I need to multiply
Add them.
the balance and the number of days at. So I'm going to go down and just multiply all these numbers, and then do what with all of that?
Divide them by
Add them all up and divide by
30.
30.
Yeah.
How many days are in a month? Not 365. Okay. So we're going to add them all up. All the times.
Do they go in the over there with the number section? Or
Yeah,
is it
I don't have
something-
enough room for my video, but yeah, they do go over here. So
Okay.
744 times 3 is, I'll try to fit it in.
22, 32.
I have the answers. 22, 32. The next one is 5046. The next one is 1100. The next one is 4165. The next one is 8124. All right.
Yes.
I better be because I did it on a spreadsheet. So what do I do with all those numbers?
And
Add them all up. Now if you add them all up, it becomes 20,667. You're going to take that and divide by 30, and this becomes your average daily balance. Whew. Lots of calculations.
688,
Thank God for spreadsheets. What's it become?
688, 90,
688.
90.
So the principal that the credit card is going to use for your month's bill is going to be that number. It has nothing to do with any of the balances on your credit card. It is just a number they generate to
That's the principal, right?
I don't care. Put it back. I'll talk to her next time. So the next step up is I equals PRT. So I is going to equal principal,
688.
0.90, right?
18.5.
18.5.
18.5, so I'm going to write
185.
0.185 times time.
30 over 365.
30 over 365. And come up with a nice answer. 30 days out of the whole year, because you're doing daily interest. So you should get
10.47.
1048.
47. Do you want, now last time I asked you to round, you said no.
I say it's money. Yeah, banks want all their money. 1048, right? So the interest goes here. Of course, in Moodle, it has its own little special box, how much interest you charge for the next month. Put it in. What does it do to your balance? Oh, I got that in the way. I'll have to fit it here. It's going to take your balance and add $10.48 to it, so it becomes
687.48.
687.48. And there you are, credit card. It's not that hard. The only mistakes I've ever seen is picking the wrong number of days between balances or putting them associated with the wrong balance. I've actually seen someone take a payment to a credit card and make the balance go up. They were thinking checking, because that's usually what would happen with the checking. Which one? This one?
Yeah.
It's your interest, 1048, plus your last balance. 670. Not too bad. So I gotta show you how to read this table properly. Now CPI, Consumer Price Index. Generally, it's a way of being able to compare prices from one year to the next, or prices over time. One of my favorites is when the gas prices went up to about $3-4 a gallon, everybody was freaking out.
Yeah.
And historically, that wasn't even close to being the highest cost of gas.
What you mean it wasn't close?
It wasn't even close. You can't compare $3, $4 a gallon today to 30, 40 years ago because money was worth more back then. So what you have to do is use the CPI idea to take your money today, $4 a gallon if you want to say it was that, and go back in time and compare it to other years. And it turned out 1974, 75, somewhere in there, gas, if we change it to today's money, was like $5 to $6 a gallon. And people were freaking out about $4. So, I don't know. But this gives you an idea of how to compare prices from today to any year you want. So anytime you see this phrase, adjusted to inflation. Price adjusted because of inflation or to inflation. What they're doing is they're using this idea of CPI.
It's missing a D.
What? Adjusted. Fine. So much more interesting to talk about it. Write it. Ooh, what the heck is that? Where's the eraser? Get big. Got a line going down my screen here. So anytime you see that phrase or something like that phrase, what they're trying to do is give you a comparison between a price today to a price in the past. So you can't just say, oh look, gas today is $2 and some cents, and in 1999 it was $1 a gallon. Oh my God, we're paying so much more. The difference is $2 something today could be exactly the same as $1 in 1999. How much it would actually purchase for? How many loaves of bread? I like going back to the loaves of bread. All right, so the CPI is the middle number. So you have the years off to the left. The middle number is your CPI, and that's what we're going to be using. We're also going to be using a lot of this.
You said the middle number of our CPI?
Yep. I haven't even described where that number came from. Sad. Remember this formula? That's not grandma's, that's new money, that's percent change. Relative change. We're going to be using that formula, and we're going to be using grandma's.
When are we gonna get rid of that, Grandma?
Never. Grandma's always cropping up. All right, so the CPI is this. The government looks at the prices for base commodities. So base commodities are gas, bread, eggs, milk, sugar, flour, salt,
Pepper.
possibly pepper, I don't know. But it's basic things that people buy year in and year out. So you can compare from prices of 1930 to today because you're talking about the basic same stuff. All right, so today the Consumer Price Index for 2015 is sitting at 236.6. So 2015, even though it's not done, they can kind of do an approximation of where the CPI is for this year. So they're saying that it is 236.6 CPI. So the stuff that they created years ago to be 100%. So this table is based off 100% around 1982, somewhere around there. This would be a little bit above the cost, well, twice as much as 1982. So let's say we're going to compare, what was my first example? Gas? Yeah, gas. What does gas cost today?
$2.19.
Gas today, $2.19 per gallon. Which isn't bad because a couple years ago it was really close to $4. This price is historically low for gas. Not the numeric value, but how much is coming out of people's pockets, according to CPI, is extremely low. And this is why Russia went through a horrible time and they're starting to invade everybody. It's because they were depending on petroleum sales to Europe, and the price of gas took a nosedive, and therefore they lost lots of money, tons and tons of money. So this is a historically low price for gas. So when you go to the pump, don't be going, oh my God, I have to pay $2.90.
But you
Trust
have
me.
some that do complain about that if it go up like 2 cents.
If it goes up
then-
1 cent,
yeah,
they
then
complain.
they-
I know. But
It's 206 in Tarboro.
and that, what, 13 cents is a big deal?
Yeah.
You know how I think of it? If you fill up your tank with 10 gallons of gas, that's $1.30, $1.30. It's not much according to how much you pay though. And it's all relative. So if gas today costs $2.19, how much can we predict for, what year did I put it in? 1989. So here's how we're going to do it. You look up the CPI values for both years. Well, obviously the CPI for 2015 is right here. So all you have to do is look up the CPI for 1989. There's my birth year. 1989, the CPI was 124. So this one's 124.
So is that gonna be the new minus O?
Yep. So the new value is,
219.
so percent change. We'll describe that in a second. It's going to be new, 236.6.
Oh, that part.
Yeah, 2015. Minus
124.
124, old, divided by old,
124.
and then you take that answer
Multiply by.
and put a percent sign next to it. So what does that come up to be?
136.6.
Huh?
That's what I got.
Oh. Remember, you can't do it all in one fell swoop. You gotta do the top first, get an answer, then divide by the bottom. Or you put a parentheses here and a parentheses there. What is it? 90.81?
Yeah.
Yeah, make it 8. Tenths is good enough. This number is considered, well, it's the percent change between the 2 years, but it's also the inflation from 1989 to the present. It's how much money has been inflated.
So is this part over here, the very last column, is that inflation?
That's inflation year to year.
Okay.
Year to year. But it's not inflation over a long period because it's only year to year. This is the inflation over a long period. So inflation
So I'm gonna use grandma.
from, well, we'll get to that, 1989 to 2015. So prices have inflated almost 100%. What's that mean? Yeah. What's that mean?
Prices going down.
So if something costs, this marker costs $10 today. I'm sorry, this marker cost $10 in 1989. How much would it cost today if it was 100% inflation?
$5.
100.
$20.
$1,000.
$20. It would be 100% more than it already was, and 100% of 10 is 10, and you add it on to your 10, and 10 plus 10 is?
20.
So it would be $20. So, instead of doing that calculation, we could do this. So, if we do new equals grandma 1 plus, and in this case it is plus, right?
Yes.
Because the price went
No.
up. Inflation is moving them forward. X over 100, right? Do I know my new value?
Yeah, 90.8.
I'm talking about my gas price.
Oh, 213.
Is that my new price or is that grandma?
That's grandma.
It's new.
That's the new price.
That's my new price. So that's gonna go here, $2.19.
Grandma.
I'm looking for, how much would it have cost so many years ago? Grandma. Because grandma went under an inflation of
90.
90.8, and if you divide by 100, it becomes 0.908, right?
Yeah.
Add them together, it becomes 1.908. And how do you solve for G?
Divide.
You divide both sides by 1.908. So what's 2.19 divided by 1.908?
1.15.
1.15? So gas back in 1989 cost $1.15 per gallon after inflation. Or you could actually think of this a different way. If gas costs $2.19 today per gallon, if we went back to 1989 prices, it should have cost $1.15. So is there a way of finding out exactly what gas cost in 1989?
Google.
Sure. Do a Google. You type in gas prices for 1989. No, I won't. So if I did the Google said this. 113 per gallon. Which is really close to 115. So the way I would compare this is, we're paying a little bit more for gas than we did in 1989. Because it should be 115, but really in 1989 they were only paying 113. I had to search this one up. The other one we just did a calculation. So we're paying a little bit more than 1989. Great. Are we always paying more?
Yeah.
No. So let me go back here.
When are we paying a little bit more?
When?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, we're paying less than one specific year for sure. Here it all is.
Let me know which year was that so I can go back.
Oh, no. We paid more for gas back in 1979.
Really? That year.
So basically what you're saying is when we pass
Because
it,
everybody your age.
we don't spend a small amount of money to buy something large.
Everything went
We
up.
really spend about the same thing, or even sometimes more.
Yeah. So, I mean, this number came out as $1.15, but back in 1989, $1.15 bought you the same amount of stuff as $2.19 does today. So $2.19 in 2015 is the same thing as $1.15 in 1989. Kind of weird, huh?
That is.
It is. So let's see here. Gas today costs what again? Oh, $2.19 per gallon in 2015. How much does this become in 1979? So, the CPI for 2015, which I keep going back to, so we don't have to keep looking at the table, is 236.6. So the only other thing I need to look up is the CPI of, excuse me, 1979, which is 72.6. Alright, so using those two numbers, we can find the inflation over that span of years, 1979 to 2015. So, let's see here. New minus old over old. New,
236,
0.6 minus old
72.6,
divided by,
72.6.
for a grand total of a number.
All right. Mine might be wrong, so I'm not gonna say it out loud. I got 225, 89.
As a percent?
That's what I said, might be wrong.
No, it might actually be right. Remember, when you get this calculation done, you have to multiply by 100, no matter what it is.
225.9.
225.9? So this is 225.9% change in the value of money from 1979 to 2015. That's crazy.
Girl, stuff on the scene.
So if we just round that down to 200, if something cost $10 back in 1979, how much would it cost today?
Say that again?
If I round this down to 200% and this marker cost $10 in 1979, how much would it cost today?
30.
$30. So $10 back then is the same thing as about $30 today. Okay, so then I can go to new equals grandma 1 plus x over 100 to figure out how do I compare $2.19 a gallon back to 1979 prices. Do I know the new value?
Yes,
Yeah, it's $2 and,
19 cents.
do I know grandma? Heck no. What's 1 plus this thing divided by 100?
2.259, that's what it's gonna be, but the answer is,
Well, plus 1.
67 cents.
No.
Oh, don't go that far.
2.259 plus 1.
3.259.
3.259. And then to solve for g, divide both sides by 3.259 and you get grandma is equal to
67 cents.
0.67.
Where you getting that 219?
At the top.
At top.
The new value for gas, $2.19. So we would expect gas to cost back in 1970, what did I say it was? 1979, at 67 cents per gallon, right?
And that's equal to today?
And 67 cents per gallon back then, in money wise, should be exactly the same as $2.19 per gallon today. But when you look up the gas prices from 1979,
What was it?
they're nowhere near 67 cents.
What was it?
Oh,
Was it 57 cents?
86 cents.
Well,
Now you're thinking, oh, there's no big deal. But it actually is a big deal. If you do a percent change between these two prices, it's not a very small number. So, just curious, I'm going to get rid of the pennies, or make them pennies. What's 86 minus 67? 11 divided by 67. 19, 20%?
oh,
Oh, I swear.
sorry.
86 minus 67 is 19. What's 19 divided by 67? She just shouts out numbers.
28.28.
That's a 28% difference in price. So back in 1979, they were paying 86 cents a gallon when they really should have been paying
Bang.
67 cents a gallon. And back then, that was a big
No.
deal.
That's a big
That was a lot out of people's budgets because the pay back then was about, on average, $15,000 a year. So if you jack up your gas price 20%, and if we do a 20% increase on $2.19,
$15,000 per year. Some people still make that now.
true, but that was the average salary. 15, somewhere around 15. So let's see here, 2.19, clear, what was the percent change?
About 20.
28.
28%?
How'd you figure that out?
1.28. That would be comparable for us paying $2.80 a gallon.
So you're saying they were really paying 86?
They were paying 86 cents a gallon for gas, when under CPI, historical prices, they should have only been paying 67 cents per gallon.